Today we're checking out life in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico with Michelle Wedderburn Waters. San Miguel is nestled in the mountains almost 6,300 feet above sea level, which makes its climate drier and cooler than many parts of Mexico. Michelle, her husband, and young son moved to San Miguel de Allende a few years ago from Florida. Michelle now runs a beautiful boutique retreat space for women that you're going to fall in love with. If you're watching this in March, come join us on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. Pacific, where we're hosting a Move to Mexico YouTube live series right here on Modern Aging's YouTube channel. Go to thisismodernaging.com for more info and to register for free. And if you're liking these videos, be sure to subscribe and give it a like so that more people can get notified about the video. Today, Michelle and I talk nuts and bolts about the cost of living and what makes San Miguel de Allende a special place to live. So check it out. Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Hi. How are you, Riza?
I'm good. You're in San Miguel de Allende, a town that I have not been in, but I have been dying to go to. So I'm very excited for this chat today. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your family, where are you from, and how did you find San Miguel de Allende, and how long have you been there?
I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. I grew up in Connecticut in the US, and I moved around a little bit, ended up in Florida for about a little over 10 years, and then just kind of thought, I want to move somewhere else. My husband and I started exploring different countries, different places, and San Miguel was a place that I had visited in 2005. And at that time, I wasn't so interested in living in San Miguel. It was very different, but it was definitely a place that I enjoyed at that time, but it was just a little slower. So when we started looking into where should we go, what should we do, Mexico kind of kept popping up. It was not our first country of choice. So in saying all of that, doing research and taking a trip here in 2017 to check it out was sort of how we ended up making that decision to move to San Miguel. And there's a lot of information out there about the city itself, but if you really are interested, you have to experience it. It's just a beautiful place.
Yeah, no, everybody says that once they go there, it's just amazing in terms of the climate and the
Yes.
art and culture and the colors. So what was it that attracted you to San Miguel that you said, okay, I think we could live here, and I think this is the town or the city?
I would say, first of all, I was attracted to Mexico because it's just culturally rich. There are traditions here that are just well-rooted, and I really love how the pace and the tempo of the country as a whole goes. I really have always had a positive experience with my travels through Mexico, around, different cities and things like that. So once I started doing research on places to live, and San Miguel came up, and when we visited, it just felt right because they had families here with other children, and it was a little mixed in terms of the age demographic. I was not overly attracted to other places where, there's a big disparity between the locals who live there and then the foreigners who live that are mostly retired. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I really wanted us to have like a nice circle of people that my son could also have friends and whatever that were in his age range. And I didn't realize this at the time because San Miguel used to be more of a retirement town, but it has changed quite a bit. There are lots of families here, lots of people with their kids, lots of, people who have retired, a lot of people that just travel here a lot. So it's been really a nice kind of like blend of everything. So that was part of the attraction.
That's great. And so what about the Black community? Is there a large Black expat community there? Is there intermingling within the locals? Is there
the
expat community in general?
There's not a large Black expat community because when I arrived, I met someone who had been here for about 20 years. And she told me that she was a part of the Dirty Dozen. So it was pretty funny, her analogy, because I hadn't thought about that, to be honest with you. I didn't really pre-think about that when I was moving here. I just wanted to move. And so when I went shopping 2 days into moving here, I met Stephanie, and after meeting her, she was kind of explaining, what the demographics were. I said, oh, wow, there are really not a lot of us, but I hadn't given a lot of thought. And between 2018, when we arrived, till now, more and more people have moved here, and a lot of those folks, I've either talked to them about why I love San Miguel, or we did a consultation and why I love San Miguel. And so, yes, there are more, but would I say we're excessive, in terms of the numbers? No, I would say we're probably now at 40, which is pretty decent.
Well, it's a small town also.
Yeah.
San Miguel is not a large place as it
Right.
is, but in terms of the expat community there, I'm assuming it's mainly Americans and Canadians?
Yes.
Or do you find people from all over?
There are people from all over, but I think the majority of us are definitely Canadians and Americans, or people from the U.S. As far as, like I said, us mingling, I think it's a good mix. We definitely hang out with people that were born and raised in Mexico, or other parts, or they're from other parts of Mexico. We go out to the campo, as they call it, the country. We hang out with people that, that's where they're from, and they've invited us to partake in certain activities. Like at Christmas, we did the posada, and that was amazing. We were literally out with, maybe 50 people out in the country having gorditas and tortillas and whatever. So I think it's just,
amazing.
it's amazing in not just the eating part, which is also amazing, but in the mixing and the welcoming factor of Mexico. And I think that's why a lot of people have moved here, because it's just culturally welcoming.
So describe San Miguel to me. When people think of Mexico, they often think beach. They think Puerto Vallarta or Playa del Carmen, Cancun, maybe Cabo. So, but San Miguel is like, there's no ocean to be found anywhere.
No.
And you're quite up in the mountains.
Exactly. So how would I describe it? We are in the mountains. We are about 6,300 feet above sea level. So if you're looking for beach, this is not your place. The closest beach is, I think, 4 to 5 hours to drive to the Pacific coast. The town itself is very Spanish colonial. It's very colorful. It's a UNESCO heritage city. The colors are all consistent in terms of very natural. You have the dark oranges and the deep reds and all of these very earthy things that are happening here. It's very artistic. There are lots of shops and boutiques. So I feel like it's a space that has been preserved in terms of their buildings and their history, but then you'll walk inside and it's like modern, because they've preserved the exterior walls and they've preserved the look of the original building, and that's the reason why it's falls under this category. But at the same time, there's so much progression in terms of moving forward. It has amazing dining, and just like these quaint shops and these amazing boutiques where you can still feel kind of like you're in a city, but you still have like this old town that's been preserved. So I think it reminds people a lot, it does for me, of going to, for example, Italy, where you have these places that have been restored, and that's kind of what San Miguel is. And I think that's a big part of the attraction, and why people have come here. And the weather is also really amazing because it doesn't get super cold. We don't get snow. Yes, we're in the mountains. We don't get excessive heat. Our summer months are April and May, and then the rainy season starts. But the rainy season actually is mostly just at night, so you have a beautiful sunny blue day, and then it rains at night. So I think all of these factors, along with the fact that it just has a lot of history. People come here, and the magic of San Miguel, because that's what I always say, is that everyone kind of just fits, if that makes sense. It just feels like a place you can softly land if you're coming from from the US or Canada, and it doesn't feel like a hard landing if you are transitioning into living abroad or living in Mexico.
And what do you mean by that? Is it because you have, is there like a Starbucks on the corner? Is that why it's kind of a soft landing?
We do have a
or
Starbucks.
Is it, what?
Yes, we do have a Starbucks, but I don't go. No, but yeah. Well, yeah, it's a combo. So yes, we do have one Starbucks in Central. I think it's a soft landing because it's not hard to create community here and make friends and integrate. That I did not expect, and I didn't come here looking for it. But I started realizing this very soon and quickly into this move that we made back in June of 2018. So in helping and speaking to other people, I feel that it's a soft landing because, one, they're used to having foreigners here, and they're used to kind of working with the concepts that we come with, because sometimes we don't let things go. When we move abroad, we have to take those layers off, and I call them onion layers, little by little. So in saying all of that, that yes, there is a Starbucks, but there are just things that I think people want, like the little, what do they call it, creature comforts. For example, there's an amazing grocery store, City Market. They just built that. There was already an amazing grocery store. There are a lot of, specialty shops that sell, like a place that sells cheeses, and I mean it's little stuff, but it does matter, because when you get here, you don't feel like an extreme shock. You know what I'm trying to say? It's sort of like it's what you want, but then you can still have some of these things that you're used to having. And then there's Queretaro, which is only about 45 minutes away, and that's a pretty big city. So there are lots of things that you still have access to that maybe otherwise you didn't think you would have access to. So I think all of that makes it a little bit more comfortable for people to kind of have that softer landing, as opposed to I can find nothing that I'm used to seeing or buying. And it's not that you come here for that, but it definitely adds to the experience. It makes you feel like, oh, okay, I have a little piece of home, and I have a little piece of this or a little piece of that. And then along with that, as I said, it's really easy to integrate with the local community across the board, whether they're from another country, or they're from Mexico, or if they're from Canada, or they're from the United States. There's a lot of community here. Like you can meet someone in a grocery store and they'll instantly invite you over, come to my house, walking on the street. People will ask you, where are you from? They speak, they're very friendly. And I think that this place kind of promotes that. You don't feel like, oh, it's going to take me a while to meet people. It's going to take me a while to make friends. It really makes it easy for you. Mm-hmm.
That's so great. And so you mentioned Querétaro. Mm-hmm. Is that where people would fly into? Yes.
You could either fly into Querétaro or León. So most people flying into Querétaro are flying probably from, mid-US to the East Coast. And then if you're flying into León, you would probably be coming from like California or something like that. And then there's also Mexico City. Mexico City is approximately 4 hours drive away. So there's a local shuttle service that will pick you up from any of those airports and bring you to San Miguel.
Oh, that's cool. Mm-hmm. So let's switch gears a little bit into cost of living.
Okay.
So San Miguel actually does have a reputation of being one of the more expensive cities in Mexico. So how have you, I don't know, I guess comparing it to the United States. So you rent an apartment, is that right? A condo?
Correct. Yeah, well, a townhouse, yes.
Okay, so you have a whole townhouse. Mm-hmm. How big is it? How much is your rent? What was that process like for you to actually even rent as an expat?
When we did our research trip in December 2017, we like the next day, we went out with a guy and we were like, show us all the neighborhoods. I think in our minds, we thought we could find apartment buildings that had places or, developments that had places solely for rent. It does not work that way, at least not in San Miguel. You are going to find places that are available, but all of those places are individually owned. So it is a little bit more complex in the sense of finding. It's not complex in the sense of renting, it's just complex in the sense of finding, because we're so used to going online, going to an MLS and thinking we're going to get a list. It doesn't work that way here. Really, a lot of it's word of mouth, finding the right maybe realtor, or just simply getting in your car, driving around and taking pictures of signs and calling the numbers yourself. Literally, that's how it works. So when we came in December 2017, we had a gentleman who drove us around the city, and we found this development, and we spoke to a lady who was a property manager, and she told us about this unit, brought us to the unit to see it, and we stayed in touch, and 6 months later it was still available. So it's a 3-3. It's 2 stories. We enter on the second level, so beneath us. So if I had to describe the building itself, it's a 4-plex. So you have 2 more probably condo kind of units downstairs, 1 level. Those are 2 twos, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And then you go up the steps, and then on the left is our unit. And we enter on the second floor. That's the main living area. There are 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, plus the kitchen, the dining, the living room, and then like a patio balcony. So it's kind of really open living space. And then you go upstairs, and we have also our master suite with a bathroom and another balcony that, kind of looks out to the parroquia. So even though we're considered to be living in the suburbs, we are only like 10 minutes away from Central. So it's still convenient. Our rent is approximately $1,100 US a month. So that is a little, for Mexico, it is considered higher. But for what we get, we are in a development with swimming pools, tennis court, gym, all the things you would still pay for if you went somewhere else. So it's all a part of it. There's 24/7 security. My child can play outside freely. I don't have to worry about being right there. I had not had that when I lived in Florida. So it's really an amazing experience. Yes, to answer your question, San Miguel is definitely one of the more expensive cities or places in Mexico in general, and that is because the real estate value has gone up. A lot of people have come here, not just foreigners. I mean, there are a lot of affluent Mexicans who own second and third homes in San Miguel. So, I think we have sometimes this misconception that, we're somehow contributing a ton to their economy. Mexico survived just fine without us. Just so you know, I mean, there are a lot of people that I've seen, even in my development, that are really, they're living well. And they, we have this much of space in this grand scheme, but they are definitely comfortable in Mexico in general. So in saying all of that, I feel that you can really find places that are priced right, especially if you're coming from a place like a New York City, California, a Chicago, a Florida. That's where I moved from. Florida is very expensive, and you can get a lot more for your money. So I always tell people, don't just consider the rent price, consider all of the expenses you have. For example, water, we pay that every other month. So we pay it 6 times a year. We pay our electricity 6 times a year. We get billed every other month. And the water is maybe 30 or 40 bucks. That's $15 a month. So you have to consider everything. You have to consider, if I buy a car, how much is my insurance for that vehicle? I bought a vehicle, my insurance for the whole year, full coverage, my deductible might be 500 US or 1,000, I don't know. But my premium for the whole year is under 300 US dollars, and I don't have a car note. So the point is
$300 for the year?
for the whole year.
What?
Yes. $287 if you to be exact. So the point simply is even if you find a home here that yes, you can, if you got it like that, yes, you can rent a place for $3,000 a month. It's going to be massive. It's probably going to be in Central. It's going to be amazing. But you can also find a home or a place that if you're a single person or a couple and you just say, you know what, I want to downsize. I want less living. I want more living, less space that I have to maintain. You can find a place here. I have clients who have rented spaces for about $750 US a month, which isn't bad,
That's
and like
great.
I said, the living expenses are not crazy expensive, so you can go up. I mean, one of my neighbors from here in Casa Elm, she rents a really beautiful home with a casita in the back for the same price that I pay at El Secreto for $1,100 a month, and it's a big traditional Mexican home with a casita out back, a yard, a security, a courtyard. So, you just have to get here. I don't advise renting sight unseen. I keep running into people who keep doing it. Just don't do that. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay, just do not do it. Come rent an Airbnb for a few weeks or a month and just look around, and you can find places that are within your budget. So don't be fooled that people think everything's super expensive. I think overall, if you compare to Queretaro, or I can't even say Mexico City because I think Mexico City can be pricey as well. But let me compare it to Zacatecas. For those who haven't heard, it's a massive city. I went there and the prices were significantly less. And it's a city, but it's not a city for foreigners, or it is for foreigners, meaning you can visit, meaning there are not a lot of foreigners there. So you really get that true Mexican price. Little things.
The Mexico feeling. Too.
Exactly, the Mexico feeling, the whole nine. But the rents are less, but you're not going to have, it's not a soft landing. I mean, my Spanish is decent. They didn't even understand me. So my whole point is it's not a soft landing space. But as far as renting, to answer your other question, no, it's not that difficult. I literally just showed a passport and I paid 1 month's security and first month's rent, and that was it. Signed a lease on a tourist visa at the time. That's what how I transitioned into getting here. Now we're with our resident cards or whatever, but they don't make it very difficult. Even my son was able to go to school, because when we started the process, we thought we were going to have our residency right off the bat, and then we had some struggles, but we had we were like, okay, our flight's coming, we got to get on the plane. This was a few years ago. They've cracked down on, just this whole, tourist visa living. So I don't recommend that at all. But my point is it wasn't a complicated process at all.
So you have temporary residency now?
Yes. My husband has permanent, and my son and I have temporary. We'll have our permanente, fingers crossed, in 2 years.
So kind of going back to the cost of living. So can you give me a simple breakdown? So what do you pay in electricity then? What do you pay in groceries? You have a car, so I know gas is a little bit more expensive in Mexico. What do you pay for gas monthly? Just approximate numbers if there's any other health insurance.
Okay. Well, rent is about, I'll give it to you in US dollars. Rent is approximately $1,100 depending on the exchange rate. Like when COVID hit, it was like $1 was 25 pesos, so then my rent went down to like 900 or 850, I can't remember. And our electricity, I would say, cost us approximately, I would say about $25 a month, maybe about $25 a month, right? Our water cost us about $15 a month. Food cost us a lot because we eat and we just, that's like our thing. We go out and we like to shop at Costco's, and there's H-E-B here. Now there's City Market, which is a phenomenal supermarket. So I would say we spend more on food, but that's just a personal choice. We eat out a lot at restaurants, or we do a lot of social things. So I think we definitely spend more on food, but I do think you could survive quite well if you were spending, let's say, as a couple, let's say $100 a week or a little bit less. It all kind of depends on what you like to eat. There are so many little tiendas and stores that sell fresh fruit and vegetables and things like this. And if you bought a little, if you eat meat and you buy a little chicken or whatever, if you cook at home, you can obviously save a lot of money. But I think groceries in general for us are a little higher, and it's because we like to go to places and buy, and do social things. But I feel like that's a personal choice. That's not I must have, As far as healthcare, we have full coverage in the U.S. that kind of translates to Mexico. So that I can't really speak on, but I can tell you the very first 1 or 2 years that we were here, we did investigate full coverage in Mexico. And for 3 people, well, I should say for 2 adults and a child, it was around $1,600-ish US dollars for the whole year. And it had
year.
Yeah, $1,600 for the whole year for full coverage with a $1,000 US dollar deductible, but that $1,000 was for the family. It was a family deductible. So let's call it $2,600 for the year. And it covered a lot of things. It wasn't just, like a catastrophic or catastrophe kind of scenario. It was that you could collect and accumulate your expenses for prescriptions, regular doctor's visits, etc., and then submit that, and anything above the $1,000 they would reimburse you for that. I believe most of it was 100%. Some of it was a 80-20 split.
Was that an American company, a foreign company, or was that a Mexican company?
It was actually an American company out of Texas that was writing premiums and doing services in Mexico. I don't remember the name of the company, but there's a representative here. And then I also recently ran into another gentleman. I'm not sure if he's still in Playa, but he also was working through a Mexican, I think, agency to sell similar insurance. So what they do is they represent the companies that provide it, obviously, and then they give you quotes from different companies. And then the second year, it went up to about 3,000. So I would say it's right now, it's around 5, because I think just with COVID and everything that's happened in the last few years, it affected, everyone. But still 5,000 US dollars a year for 2 adults and a child with pretty good coverage is not bad. And your general your general doctor's visits are around a consultation, like a full-on consultation will cost you around 30 US dollars, 25 to 30 US dollars. And I've taken my son plenty of times, to a pediatrician, so.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that in terms of the healthcare, and actually San Miguel probably has it, but they still do house calls, some doctors,
Yes.
I've heard.
Yes, we've had a few house calls for about $25. It's crazy. I remember a friend offering a house call because you get some kind of stomach bug, that's not uncommon here when you're new to visiting. And my husband was visiting from the US, and my friend offered it, and I thought she was joking. I made a joke back because I thought it was a joke. And she said, no, I have a doctor who will come to your house. And, this lady showed up. She was like 6 feet tall with her little black bag. And yeah, she even brought the prescriptions with her. And I think we paid about 30 US to 35 US dollars for her consultation and the antibiotics that he needed, all included. It was crazy. Wow. That was for me kind of one of the first times that I just realized that it's so much more affordable here for things that we're so used to paying an excessive amount for in the U.S.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just insane sometimes. You don't realize it when you're in it, and then all of a sudden you start talking to people outside the country, you're like, what?
Yes. Exactly.
My gosh. So let's go to a little bit about work, because I know that you are not retired, right?
No.
So you are still making a living, and now you have a new venture in Mexico. So tell me a little bit about that, and what your hopes are.
Well, when I arrived, I didn't really have a grand master plan in terms of work. I want to do some sort of retreat. I feel like it's a great area in Mexico for that. You know, even though we have many city with San Miguel, El Centro, and just all the cool things there are to do there, and it's hustle and bustling. You can go 15 minutes outside of the city in any direction, and it changes. The landscape's quiet, and it's peaceful, and you can see the stars. And so I really thought this was a great place to host things like this. Yeah, but I didn't expect settling in would take as long as it did. I thought I was just going to get here, set up my place, and you know, my son's in school, we're learning Spanish, and bam, we're done. It took a while. It takes a little while to, you know, get your bearings. Really understanding the language is a challenge every day. And just, you know, figuring things out, like what's okay for you to do and not do. Across the board in terms of, you know, if you do have a business, like how do I do it? How do I connect with the right people? And how do I make that happen? So it took a little while for me to get to this point. And I started with, like I said to you in a previous conversation, with Afro expats, was more about showing people life from our lens, and people could see that you know, there are other people of color in Mexico, and we are well received. And so I started sharing just our trips, you know, like we're over here, just like people start their little channel, you know, it's like we're doing this, we're doing that, we love Mexico. Oh, we went to Puerto Vallarta, we went to Huasteca, we went to San Luis Potosí, we went to Bernal, we did this, you know. So it's like I wanted people to see, like, it's a cool country. No, it's not just about the beach. There are amazing places in the interior. This is where I live, and here's what it looks like. So that was sort of where it started. And then I started having a lot of folks asking questions about San Miguel, about Central Mexico, what's it like for your son, you know, what do you guys do you have friends, etc. And then I said, you know what, I think people need to understand the process is not that complicated. It's not hard, like it is for you too. We're you know, we're just normal people, just like you, and you can also do it. And so that's sort of where, you know, the consultation thing kind of came into play, but I always had my heart set on the retreats. And I found this space. So, you know, I'm sitting in Casa Elm, which is now going to be the space. I said, okay, I can't rent a home. Well, I'm not finding a home in the kind of capacity that I need, so I'll find a home and I'll create the environment that I'm trying to find through other people. And that's pretty much how I ended up with this home.
Actually kind of giving little workshops and stuff, right, about immigration and visas and all the real estate and all the practical things you need to do in order to move there.
Right. Well, it's a space for multiple purposes, and a part of that is, yes, we recently did a relocation group, very small, and you know, we brought in local people to talk to them about how do you immigrate properly, you know, temporary visa, how do you get your permanente, how do you get yourself established so that when you go to your appointment with, you know, the consulate, Mexican consulate, that you're going with the knowledge that you need, because we all go there and we don't really know what to expect. So I had a local lady come in, and this is what she does, Sonia Diaz, and she gave them a question, a presentation, lots of information. They had a Q&A session with her. Then I had them connect with another local guy who does neighborhood tours, and he brought them to all the neighborhoods that are in San Miguel. This is where, and also along with that, he gives them a little history. So it's kind of like, you're getting a tour of San Miguel, you're getting a little bit of history about the city, but you're also getting to see the different neighborhoods and where people live and how they live and what it looks like. And then we also did a presentation. They met with a realtor, they went to her office, and they spoke to her one-on-one about homes, how to buy, how to rent, what's required. And then she took them to look at homes and places for sale and places for rent. And, they really enjoyed that. So there was a lot of info that was provided that people don't have to go digging on the internet to get, that third and fourth person's, experience. And it's like, this is what it is. This is what it looks like. This is how it works. And it just makes the process much easier and smoother if you are truly interested in, moving forward with it. So that's a part of it. And then moving forward with the home itself, yes, this space is for that, but it's also to host my women's retreats. So awesome. It's a multi-purpose space.
I mean, to be honest, this is part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on, right? Mm-hmm. So I have this whole Dream Retirement in Mexico program, which is an all online program about various similar things, right? Mm-hmm. All the things that you need to do and know before you actually make the move to Mexico, because I feel like so much of our health and wellness resides in where we live, right? Our home can provide a lot of stress, or it can provide tranquility and security. So that's why I just love talking about Mexico, because I find a lot of people who have made the transition and the move there have found that. There's a lot of the outside stresses that we have in the U.S. that are kind of gone, right?
Absolutely. The quality of life to me definitely increases. Increases in so many ways, because yes, you are bringing your US dollars, and I always tell people, please walk with grace. Money doesn't make you better or more special, just walk with grace. But it does afford you a little bit more quality of life, and you can come and you can kind of relinquish all of these things that we do in the US, where we're constantly going and running around and stressed, and we're not ever slowing down enough to enjoy being present and or enjoy being with our loved ones. We're constantly rushing through things, and I think that being here allows us to enjoy things that we may not have otherwise done. Like even these ladies, it took them like 2 days to just, I can do nothing. I can just relax. And, they stayed up having tea and talking, and, we had an expat gathering with, a mix of everyone, all kinds of faces, and they really just relished in this moment of, I can just come to San Miguel, and I met these folks, 5 minutes ago, and they welcomed me into their home, and, now I'm here, and I'm sitting here making bonds and connections and friendships with people that they probably will continue to be friends with, for the rest of their lives.